Welcome to Catch You Outdoors. I'm your host, Captain Rob Modies. This podcast is about living and playing down here in the Florida Keys, a 125-mile-long chain of islands. I cover my favorite sport, fishing, but also all the many things to see and do down here in the Keys. Catch You Outdoors is hosted by Spotify and also brought to you by your favorite podcast network. So kick back and relax with me in the Keys. This week's episode of Catch Ya Outdoors is number 143. Hell, good morning, afternoon, evening, again, depending on when you might be tuned into the podcast. For me, this is Sunday morning early on June 16th. Janelle and I are headed out to go to Tampa today, so I thought I better get this done because I'm not going to have time. I won't get back Monday until late, so... Thanks again to all the listeners, old and new. The listeners' numbers they're still rising. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you, and please tell a friend. Did not fish this week, as many of you probably know if you watch the national news. We had a bit of a rain event down this way. Major flooding in the Miami and Fort Lauderdale area. 19 to 20 inches in some places. A lot of places at 10 or so. And it's funny because over there it doesn't drain like it does in the Keys. We had every bit of that in the Keys. We had, I think, 8 or 9 inches down here in Key Largo. So we were on the edge, so we didn't get quite what they got. But that was, it was like a 3-4 day span. It just kept raining. It just, at night, daytime, gray overcast skies. It was very messy. But we're kind of lucky down here. The drainage down here is basically, we live on an island, so it just runs off. And we're on a rock, so there's no place for it to really puddle or pool much. And but that's not the way it is in Miami and Fort Lauderdale. No. They had water in houses. That's how high up it got just during the rainstorms. Not to mention flooding out their cars and all kinds of fun stuff. So, skies kind of went weird on Monday, I guess it was, and then all hell broke loose on Tuesday, and Wednesday, and Thursday, and Friday, and yesterday. It was sprinkling by that time. It had calmed down quite a bit, but so. So here's the fun part. Another reason I'm not fishing is I'm not allowed to do anything stressful. So yesterday. And obviously today I'll be driving, but I've got my big Moffitt Cancer Center appointment, and that happens on Monday morning early, and it runs pretty much all day. And they have strict regulations on what I can and cannot do, like eating, no; drinking, no; water, yes. Oh boy, tons of fun. So I really had to just kind of take the day off and not mess around with that kind of stuff. And but I am looking forward to it. Getting back. I got to do the PET scan. You all know what that is? The PET scan? P-E-T scan? Yeah. No, it's not for your dog or your cat. It's for people. Looks at your innards. Looks at your organs. Checking for tumors and that kind of fun stuff. They inject you with a radiation, a radioactive material that shows up in the scan. It's really fun. You can't be around anybody for like 2 hours. I'm wondering if you glow. This is my third one. Yeah, this is my third one. So I don't know if you glow or not. I'm not real sure, but we'll find out. Anyway, it comes with the territory, whatever. Weather. Well, the Weather Service was way off in their predictions that I gave out last week. Like I think I told you, I think I'll fish on Tuesday or Wednesday, maybe. No, that's not what happened, obviously. And it's not unusual that they're way off. I don't know what the deal is. It's not Florida. Apparently, it's hard to predict. And a lot depends on what comes down from up north. We had this trough come down, and then it just planted itself around Tampa. And then at that point, then you start to get the southern pull. Stuff comes in from the south, and then in the middle is us, and it just changed everything. It went totally cloudy, totally nasty. We had a thunderstorm. It was unbelievable, the thunderstorm we had on, I guess that was Monday night. Might have been Tuesday. Now I can't remember. It all runs. I mean, lightning like crazy, bolts of lightning. So anyway, it's been really ugly. Captains ain't doing much. The guy that produces my music, Billy Davidson, and his bands and stuff, they all had to get canceled. That most of them do outside gigs, at these bars, and nobody was playing. So, which meant we got a lot done on my songs. I guess that's the positive, the other positive side of it. But anyway, it's been really, really awful. So I'm hesitant to talk about it this week. I'm going to get back out there. I want to go. They're saying that we're going to be okay Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Rain chances go way down. I have no idea what I know there's going to be breeze. I know it's going to be breezy out of the east because that's what happens after the front passes. We've got a big tropical blow up sitting right off the coast of Florida, the east coast of Florida. If you pull up the maps, you'll see this great big yellow blob. And they're watching that. That's supposed to move east-northeast. It's not supposed to affect us in the Keys. That's famous last words, Yeah, right. Whatever. So it's a potential tropical system. Be keeping an eye on that thing. Yes, we're watching. But anyway, so I'm a little reluctant to talk weather. We'll just see what happens. Hopefully I'll get out there. I would like to get 2 trips in if I can to make up for all the days that I have not fished, which has been, I think it's been since Janelle's birthday, which is back on the 26th of May. So we're halfway through June and I have not been on the water. That pains me. Let's see. The moon is in the waxing gibbous stage. That's a scientific way of saying that the fishing in the backcountry is getting a whole lot better than it was. We just came off the new moon back on the 6th, so we're now headed for a full moon on the 23rd. I had a note from a listener. I put a little note in here. I had a note from a listener asking me to explain the names of the phases of the moon. I thought, well, that's kind of interesting, so here you go. I'm going to start with new moon. New moon is when it's just, obviously, it ain't there. It's there. It's dark. You can see it. Waxing crescent, that's when there's a sliver of the moon on the right side of the moon. That's when it's coming back from new. First quarter is when half the moon's covered up. A lot of people call it half moon. It's not. That's actually first quarter because the moon's round and that's just part of it facing us. The waxing gibbous, that's when the crescent of the dark is on the left side. So in other words, the light's starting to move. Let's just call it, I'll call that a 3/4 moon. That's when it's almost covered. And then there's full. And then at waning gibbous is when you see the dark edge on the right side. Third quarter is dark on the right side, the right half basically. And then the waning crescent is when it's mostly dark with just a sliver of light on the left. So if you just picture it like the light moves from right to left, on the right side is after the new moon and on the left side is after the full. Now you're thoroughly confused. Go online, punch it up. They even have little pictures showing you what it looks like. Saturday red tide report came. There is some. I was surprised. The red tide organism Carina brevis was observed at background concentrations in one sample collected offshore of southwest Florida over the past week. I believe that was near, yes, it was Sarasota. So it wasn't, when they say southwest, that can be anywhere from up close to Tampa South. So, and there was, let's see, was there another one? There was one in northwest Florida over the past week as well. So there are actually 2 little samples that they found. Yeah, wet weather can cause things to happen. That's a little early for that since that was back on Saturday, but we'll see what happens. So, lots of news coming out of Miami. People are trying to drive their cars. So I have a tiny little commentary. This is supposed to be funny now. I'm not being serious. People are trying to drive their cars through roads that they had no business driving on. And this happens every time they get flooded rains down in the southern part of Miami, all across the eastern portion of Miami. It's water rising. Water is rising. Yes, it is actually. I mean, all you got to do is look. I'm not sure the global warming thing. That's all. I think that's kind of taken a side thing. This is sea level rise, is what they talk about in Miami a lot, and they're trying to build stuff up and take care of the roads and do things to take care of that problem. Because it's true. Since Janelle and I lived in the area 25, 30 years ago, it's become a big issue, especially at the airports. The airports, both Miami and Fort Lauderdale, had to shut down flights for a little while on I think it was Tuesday and Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, most of these people drive their cars through a foot of water. And most of the cars that you see in Miami are the small little coupes and sedans, the Hyundais and Toyotas and Kias and things like that, the two-door and sometimes four-door. Of course, you see the Mercedes and the Beamers, sporty cars, real sports cars, Lamborghini, that kind of stuff. And these people are driving this stuff into a foot of water, and it doesn't work. The record guy said that especially big ones that had the huge problems were the electric cars, Teslas. I don't know if they short or they just quit, or Tesla cars have enough sense to stop. Those are like fully computerized from what I've read. And it might be just they go, and so you're transportationless. So anyway, I had this idea just sitting there watching it, because while you're watching all the film from the Miami-Fort Lauderdale area, what you see are trucks going through, because a lot of people own pickup trucks in that area, because a lot of people tow boats. And I'm not talking about monster trucks. I'm just talking about a good-sized Dodge, Ford, Toyota, Chevy, just a good-sized pickup truck, usually four-wheel drive. And you didn't see any of those stranded. Not a one. And so it's like, I have a suggestion. Those of you living in Miami and Fort Lauderdale, and you are aware of this rise in water, the overall water table. And this, last year they called it, this happened last year, by the way, and they called it the 1,000-year storm. I don't know if you all remember that, but last year at this time, everything was flooded out. And people were stressed and all that stuff. Oh, it's 1,000 year. Well, guess what? It's 1,001 year. It did it again. And I think it's going to do it over and over again, quite frankly, especially when we get a tropical blow coming in off the beach. So anyway, my idea was these car dealers need to start checking on this truck stuff. You all need to start pushing trucks for the Miami population, pickup trucks, something that's off-road, not way off-road, but you know what I mean, something that's got a higher elevation underneath it so you can go through the water when you have to. You would not believe how many small cars are flooded out. I realize trucks are more expensive, so that might not be in the budget for some people, but I think overall, by the time you deal with insurance, repairing your car, getting another car, it might be worth looking into. I'm very serious about this. I love having my truck. I know I can go places that other people can't go when the weather turns rotten. By the way, trucks have better visibility too. When you're following on the interstate, it's nice to be up in the air a little bit above all the other vehicles, because you can see around them. And so when the people start stopping, you don't keep going. So there you go. That's my promotional help. I will mention Jeep in this too. Jeep is four-wheel drive. It's got a nice a clearance, undercarriage clearance. And Jeeps would go anywhere. People drive Jeeps across streams and all kinds of stuff. So it's proven that you can do that. So that's where I'd be looking. Okay? All right. My new book, What I Know About Fishing the Florida Keys, is at the printer. Yay. You all know that. I'll announce the release date once the books arrive. They have been added to the website, and you are welcome to pre-buy if you wish. The instructions for buying there. You go on to catchyoutdoors.com and go to page 4. I think that's right. Yeah, page 4. I think I mentioned this last week too. They're $34.95 this time around. The prices, man. We all know about that, right? Been to the grocery store? I have. Scary. So the $34.95, and I used to just include shipping. Not anymore. The shipping's going to be an additional $5. So $39.95 will get it to you shipped. They will be available on Amazon. Usually they release within a week or two after the original copies get in my hands. So, and if that's the case, it'll be $34.95 there. But if you're a Prime member, you don't have to pay the shipping because they take care of that for you. So I've only ordered an initial 100 copies. Those will be signed and shipped. And then after that, I'm debating on whether I'm going to order any more or not, because I'll be honest with you, the cost of printed copies is, you ain't making no money. Let's put it that way. It's like a courtesy to the readers to give you a copy of that. I'm starting to see why a lot of these big book writers that are out there are starting to pull their printed copies. They're starting to go all Kindle. And there's a reason for that, because there is no print expense. And they will, as an author, you will make more money selling on Kindle and selling on Amazon than you will, because you get a set price per book that you sell versus losing money through shipping and whatever else might happen. So, it's a dangerous bit. You ain't gonna get rich writing books. You're gonna have to be a great big author and have movies made, that kind of thing. So, I do it for fun. Let's see. More news. Oh, June edition of the Coastal Angler magazine is out. I mentioned that last week. I now have a monthly article in the Keys edition, so pick it up, please, if you get a chance. It's also available online at coastalanglermag.com. That's coastalanglermag.com. And by the way, they do these all over the state of Florida. So if you are on the West Coast, Lower West Coast, your Southwest Coast, Tampa, Upper East Panhandle, there's copies of this. You just, at the top, it'll give you regions. You click on the region and you get your magazine with your report in it. But if you're interested in what's going on in the Keys, you're coming down this way, you want to know what the fishy people are doing, that's a great resource. I mentioned the songs. I'm working on 2 at a time right now, and they're getting dangerously close to being finished thanks to all the rain we had last week. We were able to spend a lot more time in the studio than we would normally spend. We got keyboards, drums, bass is on the way. Drums are finished, keyboards finished. My song Setting Sun should be out really soon. And then Stone Crab Blues, that's the second one. That should hit about the same time, just because we were able to get a lot of work done on the songs, and real proud of them, really happy with both of them. Billy does a great production job, as well as all the musicians that he brings in to play on it. And it's absolutely wonderful to be a part of it. I really like it a lot. Let's talk a little bit of fishing. This may be a short one today. I'm looking at the clock. It might be. One of my favorite subjects, fishing, yeah. And since I haven't been out, I thought, well, I'll still talk about it because that's what we do, right? On the rainy days, people tie flies, people sort their tackle. I know in fishing, that's what I do. The garage becomes a little happy place. You know, you start going through all the stuff that's there and the things that you haven't used and the things that you do use, and you rearrange and I go back and retie stuff. I build tackle for offshore. I make dropper rigs and things like that, put them in plastic bags so I have them ready the next time I go out. I kind of catch up, basically, because if you're out and you're out and you're out and you're washing the boat, you tend to ignore the tackle side. So coming up this month in the Coastal Angler magazine, Keys version, I did a thing called the Tackle Bag, and that'll be the July issue. And that popped into my head because overall it's, I remember years ago when I started guiding, I brought everything with me. I mean, I had trays of stuff. I had, as a matter of a couple of boats, I had tray keepers behind the seat. You know, you could pop the seat down. There were trays in there and trays in the front, and these tackle trays were everywhere, and bags. And as time went by, over the next 6 or 7 years or whatever, I started to realize that there were certain things I fished with all the time, and the other things were superfluous. They didn't matter. And I started cutting way back. Saves money, number one, when you're in the business of fishing. And then you also, it's this piece that you put on for this customer or yourself at this point, now that I'm fishing on my own, that's the one I use. It works. It works every time. Come hell or high water, it always works. And so I've started to pare down. All I have now is a tackle bag, and it's not very big. It's got 4 trays in it. That's it. And quite frankly, I wouldn't have that except for where I live. I'm an East Coast and Everglades National Park. So, I mean, I guess let's call it the Atlantic. I have the Atlantic Ocean on one side of me and a sound on the other. And so the fishing, in my case, on a given day, I go and, oh, that's nice. I'm running out front. I want the tackle for that. Or I want to run out front and the wind comes up. Oh, I'll just go in the back. I got the tackle for that. It's still no more than a couple trays for each. And most of the offshore is weights, honestly. Weights, larger leader, swivels, attachment swivels, circle hooks. I mean, that's really the extent of it. I do cast a little bit out there with hard plastic lip type baits, and I might troll a jig. The good old lead head jig. I'm still a big fan of white and red, so I might tow those, and those will be heavier. Those will be a 1/2 ounce to 1 ounce jigs that I troll with. So other than that, and in the back, circle hooks, split shots, soft plastics, which are kept in little bags, and as you all know, there's one I'm very fond of, the Gulp swimming mullet, both in white and in the pink and white, as I like to call it, Candyland, and then jig heads. So it's really pared down. I mean, I know where I go, this is going to work. And there's going to be a few other things that I want to carry along with me to try out. So I have my set stuff in the bag, and then I have my tryout tray. And that is really, I've either read about it, a friend has told me about it, or I've looked at it in the shop, in the bait shop, and I've gone, that looks like that might work. And so those are also thrown in. By the way, I never start with those. If I go fishing, I do the tried and true first. And in my mind, I want to find the bite. And then once I find the bite, I will pick up the second rod that's got the weirdness on it, as I like to call it, and throw that and see what the fish think about it. In other words, I know they're there. They've already hammered something twice. I'm like, okay, here they are. So now I start throwing the weirdness in there and see what they do with that. And that's it. I mean, it's important that you get in the habit of finding that one thing that makes you comfortable. I've said this before in my books, my fishing books. It's like having mental comfort in what you're using and throwing something when you fish. You have the confidence that it's going to work. Man, it goes a long way. And you will work harder with that piece. If you've caught fish with it and you're not on a day, you're like, what is going on? Why aren't they? And you start altering speed, you alter depth, you alter the way you retrieve the bait, and bingo, they hit. And that's that learning curve. You've discovered, okay, so the other day I was doing this and it didn't work today, but the lure did work when I altered the speed or the way that I fish it. Same thing's true with wind directions and tide directions and things all playing a part in that. But again, you're still back to that old original thing that you had confidence in from the beginning. And I think that's really important. So do your best to pare it down a little bit. Carry lighter stuff, carry less. I do the exact same thing in fly fishing. If I take the fly gear out, and by the way, I rarely take the fly with the spin. If I'm going to fly fish, I intend to fly fish. And if I'm going to spin fish, I spin fish. I used to keep both on the boat, but if it's windy, I'm not fly fishing. I'm not going to get a fly in the back of my head. I love fly fishing, but I'm not that in love with it. It's like, okay, so I'll spin fish. You get one of those beautiful days, it's glassy in the morning, you're like, man, look at this. I'm going to grab a fly rod and a fly bag. And the fly bag is exactly the same way, only I have one tray. I don't even take a bag, quite frankly. I have my leaders in a plastic bag. I do, it's true. And I have my little wire tip leaders in a little bag. That's for barracuda and nonsense. It likes to cut my flies off. And then I have my fly box. And my fly box is, I'm going to say it's probably about 6x9. Yeah, maybe 6x9. And it's got an assortment of what works. Plain and simple. And most of them are things that I've tied, not store-bought. Things that over time I go, make a little, I'll have one I picked up in the store. I dissect it. And I go, okay, that's cool the way that's made. And I'll make one like it. I've also learned that tarpon like things smaller than I thought they liked. Boy, have I learned that. I used to throw these monster flies at them. No. I learned one of their favorites flies. I'm not going to even talk a lot. I don't want to give it all away. Jeez. Come down to go fishing with me. Little bitty flies that look like little bitty bugs. I found through a guide that I went fishing. Is Casey Spalding. I love that kid. He's great. I went fishing with him and learned that tarpon will instinctively just snap at something. So if you're fishing with a regular, let's just say a Clouser minnow. I mean, I know a lot of people don't use those for tarpon, but the size of that, 3 or 4 inch long fly, a lot of fur and feathers, cockroaches. There's a lot of things that people like to throw at them, but they're generally 3 inches long. What a tarpon will do is investigate that. They're crazy smart. I'm not kidding you. Big eyes. Lots of good visibility. If they see something doesn't look right, you watch them turn away. They'll come right up on your fly and then just turn off. You're like, what? Well, it didn't look right. Now, the little flies, I'm talking an inch. Yeah, an inch. Little bitty. You throw those things and the tarpon's underneath it, looks up, sees that little bitty thing. He just eats it. He just sips it down. Gone. I had one do it right next to the boat. The fly was in the water. I'm holding it there, getting ready to make a cast, and he comes up and takes it right next to the boat. Just sips it right down. So there you go. Work on small stuff. Seriously. Yeah, go little. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. The trick is, now I will say this, in the little flies, the trick is finding a hook that's heavy enough and small enough to do both. So you have to be able to tie a small fly on it, but at the same time, that sucker's got to be sturdy enough to plant the hook on a tarpon, and that is not always the easiest thing to do. That's maybe the one little bad fallacy, the one little bad part that might throw you. But other than that, you'll get a lot more bites. I can almost guarantee you that. So do your best to keep it at a minimum. Don't grab everything you've got in the entire garage. Try to pare down quite a bit. Makes your life simpler. It really does. Let's see, where are we going now? Oh, we got to do useless information. How much time? Oh, look at that. I made it all the way to 26 minutes. Holy moly. I figured we'd get 16, 17 minutes in this morning. So, all right, here we go.
And now, from the original book of useless information.
You are a reject! You are useless! You can get a job down here cleaning toilets!
Here's your host, Captain Rob Modies.
Well, he swears up and down he's useless, but
he might be all right eventually, but completely useless.
With useless information.
In all honesty, I just opened the book to a spot to see what was there. And so here it goes. This might be weirder than usual. The famous painting Whistler's Mother was once bought from a pawn shop. Ready for the next one? Leonardo da Vinci spent 12 years painting the Mona Lisa's lips. He could also write with one hand and draw with the other at the same time. I find that kind of interesting, actually. Salvador Dali once arrived at an art exhibition in a limousine filled with turnips. I have no idea what that was about. When young and impoverished, Pablo Picasso kept warm by burning his own paintings. Lord. Now if people find them in a garage or a closet, they're suddenly wealthy. So there you go. That's it. And before I go, some last words. While recording this, I can't help think but about the rest of my day. And tomorrow I'm going up to Moffett, like I said, for my semi-annual checkup. And I have a love-hate relationship with that place. I hate going there. It brings back some especially bad memories. And then I love the place and all the staff that literally saved my life so far. And bless their hearts, I ain't kidding. On that note, while there's lots of things to be thankful for, most of all, be thankful for your health and the love of others, and take care of yourselves and have yourself a real good week. I'll talk to you then. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed listening, please tell a friend, leave a review, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. The Facebook page is Catch You Outdoors. The website's catchyoutdoors.com, where you can find all the previous podcasts and a schedule of what's to come. Until next time, get outdoors and enjoy.